Welcome to the Unstoppable Product Pioneer Podcast, the podcast for business and product leaders ready to turn vision into execution and misalignment into momentum. I'm Tamar Stolz, and I'm on a mission to help you create clarity, streamline execution, and drive meaningful results. In each episode, I sit down with industry experts who share their insights, lessons, and wins, giving you the tools and strategies you need to turn alignment into your superpower. It's time to own your expertise, lead with clarity, and become unstoppable. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Unstoppable Product Pioneer Podcast. Super excited to be with you today. We have a very exciting guest with us today who I would like to welcome. Welcome, Kevin.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have you with us. Kevin has a tremendous amount of knowledge and expertise in the product space as a senior product manager. And Kevin also had a lot to do with my favorite book. I think Bruce and Melissa are going to be like laughing that this is going to become like the aligned podcast because I just can't stop talking about this book. But this book, yes. Right? I know we need to get like screenshots of all of the like fans of the podcast with the book. For those of you who are not watching and listening, I'm talking about my favorite book, Aligned. And that is actually ultimately how I ended up connecting with Kevin. He had a lot to do with the book, and so many incredible strategic product leaders were involved. So for those of you who don't have a copy yet, please go get a copy. I am not an affiliate. I'm just a passionate, authentic, happy reader. So that's that. Anyways, okay, Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Why don't you tell us, a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, how you got here. Take it away.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tamar. Kevin Segedi. I am, as she mentioned, a senior product manager. I work at a company called Paylocity, which is in the human capital management space. Paylocity started off as a payroll provider and has blown up into this really cool suite of software tools to allow businesses, small and large, up to enterprise, to run their businesses and manage their people really effectively. And I work in a really exciting area called workflows. So it is working across different applications within the suite to make things happen for our clients in an easier and more seamless way. Workflows would have different participants, approvers for the workflow or the workflow step. So really exciting things happening. And I love this area because it does cover a lot of different parts of that suite. I got my start as a web designer many years back. And parlayed that into project management. I ran my own business for a little while, doing email marketing and web design and putting things together for clients. And that's what really got me into data and making improvements, all the way from doing UX audits and making improvements in that way to looking at Google Analytics and the analytics coming back from the different email service providers. So data has been a part of it. And then, I've had various titles throughout my career, lots of different industries, from agencies to large corporations to German automotive and SaaS and everything in between. And I think that broad experience has really given me some advantages when working with product and breaking down some of the silos and maybe some of the siloed thinking that you might have with organizations which are quite mature and have people that have been in that industry for a long time. Wow,
that's awesome. I actually was a very happy user of Paylocity at my last job. And I have to remember, but was it this year, 2024, that you guys did a huge like revamp of the design, or was that last year?
We have been pushing out various design improvements, and we did launch our new workflows product this year. So just in August. Right? Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah. It's amazing how there the small changes can make such a difference. Like I do remember, like I guess as a user, there's so many different, as you're saying workflows, I'm thinking that there were so many different things, like actions that we could do. Like it was really a hub. Like I feel like I'd love to hear like from somebody who's, on the other side and like the creator and builder behind it. Maybe like you could talk a little bit about that. I mean, if you're able to, like the application and what it is that you're doing and what like functionalities and workflow processes you're able to create to not only enhance really like the workload on probably HR, right? I mean, I don't know who else would be HR. I guess for our listeners, tell us a little bit about like what the product is, what it is that you're doing, but also there's so many areas that you have been able to improve on, and I guess HR processes that you've been able to take off their plate to just make it a more seamless experience for a user to take care of what they have to take care of without having to tap into internal company resources.
Yeah, so the goal of workflows is to look at the entire life cycle of employees, and there are different workflows throughout the application suite. We have a recruiting product, we have onboarding, just the general where you can look at your benefits, look at your paychecks, what in learning, so training, surveys, there's community, there's all sorts of cool things about this application. And what HR managers are looking at is, okay, I have my employee, I want them to be retained. So what do I do for that? You get them through a workflow that has maybe multiple steps with training, having some surveys in there as well. If you're changing position, what happens when you change a position? Sometimes you are changing a supervisor, you're getting a pay increase, maybe you're getting different benefits, maybe you're moving from hourly to salary. Those are all things that in a manual process could take quite a bit of time, and Paylocity workflows just kind of meld it together and allow whoever's participating in that workflow and driving those changes to do so, even the employees. So if you have a position change, there might be an acknowledgement of a document that has what your position is, what your new pay rate is, et cetera. And you can sign right off on that right through the workflow. So getting things assigned, approved in a really, really streamlined way.
Right. PTO. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really great. Wow. Okay, cool. I'm excited because like this time I'm the user, as a product designer, and all my years as working, from the person that was creating, designing, talking to end users. It's exciting to, be on the other side.
Yeah, and it is one of the great things about being in product management is seeing and talking to clients and getting their impression, what they like, what they don't like, how can we make improvements, and really listening to what they are trying to do. Maybe not necessarily all the time what they're telling you to do, because in order to be innovative, you have to listen, look at the need, and then provide for that need. And that's one of the things in the aligned book is really how do you engage with stakeholders. And at Paylocity, clients and our customers are a really big part of our stakeholder community.
Wow. That's awesome. So you're touching on a few points. I want to go back, though, to something that you mentioned earlier on, because I think that it's very powerful and will resonate a lot with our listeners. So you mentioned something about breaking departments working in silos.
Yes.
And I think that that's a very important topic to discuss. So for people who are listening who have heard the term but don't totally know exactly, or who are like, yes, we work in silos. Can you talk a little bit about, what does it look like when departments are working in silos, and why the challenges and what the risks are, that come up when departments are not having cross-team collaboration going on?
Yeah, and I see this mainly in larger companies, multinational companies that I work for as well. where maybe I'd have a business meeting in Germany and I'd introduce two German colleagues to one another because they were working on similar things or had dependencies on one another, and they hadn't even met in their own office. So that's part of it. But this could also affect smaller businesses as well, where maybe sales is working with marketing on something, and then product is also working with the customer service and their stakeholders to build something. And you just need two different silos, and you could have a massive conflict. And what that does is it makes things really inefficient. It lengthens the time where you're really solving for client needs in a really intelligent way. And one of the cool things about my role is the area that I work in. Since we are working across multiple different products, we are having interactions quite frequently with those different product managers and their leadership. And people know what's going on. People are excited about what's going on. We do a lot of internal collaboration to make things work. And when you're in such a large organization that has lots of developers, lots of engineering know-how, lots of UX, and lots of product, you really have to have that good triad and understanding. I was in a meeting just this week, and there was an engineer who proposed an idea, and it's going to be awesome. And that's something that I hadn't thought of for the solution. So from a product mindset, you have to be really open to not only the engineers and designers that you're working with in your team, but the input that you get from other teams as well. And that helps break down those silos.
Right. That's yeah. It's so hard because, with the whole shift in workforce with working remote, right? First, remote was like never a thing. Then suddenly remote became the thing. We had COVID. There was a massive shift. And now it's very interesting, but a lot of people that I speak to are more doing either hybrid or coming back into the office. A lot of people are that I know are starting to encourage, coming back to the office, which I think I'm absolutely all for. I have pros and cons to both, but it's interesting to hear you say that there was two engineers working in the same office and they hadn't met each other. that one I haven't heard yet.
Yeah, it's interesting as you get into these larger organizations, and I have to say working remotely is fantastic. The engineers, product managers, and designers that I work with, they're all across the country. Some of them are not even in the US. They're in Europe, for example. And I have worked across countries and companies from the better half of the last half of my career here. And really don't think that you need to be in the office. I do see some advantages to being in an office environment, and it is important to get together in person. So I'm not going to deny that it's lack of in-person interactions, going to dinner with your colleagues, things of that nature are really good for building trust and really building the team. But I don't think it's a requirement. And I have been working remotely for quite a while. I had started my own company and moved to New Zealand because I was able to do that. Worked there for a year and a half, clients in California. And this was a long time ago, before Slack and Teams and all these other cool tools had come up. So I was using Skype mainly. I had a local phone number with a California area code. So my California clients didn't even necessarily know I was out of the country. And I was able to work with them really effectively, just using the tools that were available at the time.
Wow. That's awesome. That's really cool. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, collaboration with stakeholders, right? So, business strategists, leadership teams, what do you have like a process or a framework for presenting or proposing a new workflow? Like what does it look like, let's say, when a team member, comes to you and says that they have a new idea and, they want to discuss it with you and you say, you know what, that's an awesome workflow that we should add in. Like what can you like give us a little bit of picture as to what that might look like internally?
Yeah. So very good question about how to engage with them and how you take those in. So we have our own ideas, of course, and then we run those up in front of clients and present those to clients, get their feedback. We get requests from clients. So there's a whole process where requests will come in. They will get designated for workflows area. And then we are able to then look at them, prioritize them. And then we can also see like how many clients and the dollar value of those clients that are associated with that request. So that helps inform some of our decisions. And then working those ideas, and we have ideas coming in from the different parts of the product as well. So if it's maybe even tax compliance or learning skills, different areas, we'll say, yeah, we'd like this workflow. And then we look to see how we can help them build that workflow into the product. So we're doing some of the lifting, they're doing some of the lifting, and it really is a collaborative effort. So I would say that the number one part of the framework, and it's in the book too, is identify who the stakeholders are. So we have lots and lots of stakeholders at Paylocity, half of which are awesome clients, and the other half are our internal users. And we use our own, so we're also using Paylocity as our software. So ideas come in all the time from the different groups and employees that are using the product. So really, it's identifying who the stakeholders are, how you need to communicate to them, what the methods of communication are, which is really important. We feel really empowered at Paylocity for percolating our ideas up instead of having ideas coming down from management all the time. And I've been in organizations like that where ideas have trickled down, and I felt like I'm just like the chef that's baking the recipe that somebody else had created for me. So it's really empowering to be able to have those ideas and improvements, and then being able to use the data to prove how they will be successful within the product itself. And then clients are very open to having discussions with us to make the product better for themselves. And then we have to take all of those requests in, of course, and put them with a priority in a sequence of when we are going to get those new features, or if we're even going to do the new feature. Because some requests might come in and it's like, sounds like it's great for your company, but we don't see it as a fit for all of our companies in our organization. So not like being fearless in that manner as well, and pushing back and saying it's a great idea for that company. We have these other things that are much higher priority. We're probably not going to do that. So we're going to be really honest with clients and talk about how we are enriching the product for everybody. And hopefully they continue to see value in that.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot there. That's fascinating. Okay. So first of all, I want to go back to the example that you gave, right? So you get feedback from your users,
Yep.
right? You're able to do your homework and assign dollar signs to those requests, right? So you have numbers to work with. And usually when we're talking business strategy, leadership language, numbers are really important to have.
Yes.
So you did your homework. Okay. But let's say someone that's listening is in a situation that you were in previously, where you were working for a company that was going from management down in terms of, this is what we're doing, this is what we're executing on, here's the recipe, make food. So let's say someone does, they did their homework, they have client feedback, they even assigned dollar amounts, which is I'm not finding to be so common. And they're communicating in language that leadership understands, which is also needs improvement. I feel like in the product area, understanding how to communicate to the people that we're communicating to and making sure that the message is delivered in context and language that leadership understands, but that's a different topic. So they did their homework properly, but that's kind of where it ends. And leadership is not necessarily interested in what they have to say or the numbers that they have to bring. This is what they've decided they're doing. Mm-hmm. And there's not much room for pushback. What would you say is something that a product leader finding themselves in this position could do to maybe improve, encourage, raise awareness?
Yeah, I would approach it just like maybe a bottom-up idea and say, how are we going to measure success? What is the intended outcome of this? How are we going to measure it? And how do we know that this is the right fit for our clients or customers? And by having that type of mentality where you are kind of taking the ego out of it by looking at the data, and they may have the other is asking why. So product is really about the why and solving for that. So asking that question of why is this important, and finding out maybe there are things that are being planned that weren't on your radar, that you don't know about, that are more of an executive level decision. So really, you can't say no to all of those. But why are we doing this? What is the intended outcome? How can we measure it? What if it doesn't meet that intended outcome? So getting those leaders to get into that measurement and success and failure mindset and having that measurement of it is really important to getting them on board with that as well. And I would also say that you are never going to influence anybody by saying no. Not directly, especially if it's coming from leadership, that you have to take them along the journey that you want them to be on. And I'm reading a book right now. I think the title is something like How to Have Impossible Conversations. And it's really driving towards that goal of taking people on the journey, listening, finding out what's important, and then taking them along the journey. And as a product manager, you want to change behavior. And one of those behaviors that you can change is that if you are the expert and you are always coming in with a data-based mindset and using data and measurement and to drive those outcomes, you will become that trusted resource for those leaders as they continue to ask you to do things. So not an easy place to be in, but hopefully those are some methods that can get you around just being an order taker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you. That's great. I really like that a lot. Okay, and then continuing with, the point that you made about talking to your users, getting feedback, right? And then reviewing the feedback and trying to understand if those things are something as an organization you can take into account and try to implement or execute on, or if those requests don't really fit into the picture. Mm-hmm. What is the internal process for prioritizing which features get implemented, and when? I would say is my first question. And my second question is, if the answer is no, right, have you found it to be a risk to have that hard conversation with that user? Because at the end of the day, like, users are loyal. That's true. But sometimes they're not as loyal if there's a competitor that's offering more of what they want, already.
Yes.
So I understand, wanting to engage with them and understand them, hear them, empathize with them, taking their feedback and being honest up front to say, look, like, this is just, we want to hear your feedback. It's, we're listening, we're taking it all in, and we're going to seriously consider it. It's not just we're trying to check the box, with talking to our users. and to say that up front, like this is not a guarantee that this is going to happen, but we really do want to make this an overall amazing experience for everyone. But then going back, you mentioned going back to the user to say, look, we reviewed this and it's just not going to be possible for us to implement. I'd love to understand like what that conversation looks like. So I guess number one is internally, what's the process for feature prioritization and implementation? And then if the prioritization is that we're not prioritizing this right now, what does that conversation look like? And what are the challenges that have come because of it?
Yeah, so with successful organizations, you are going to have lots of planning. You are going to do that priority, and you're going to share those priorities and get buy-in from leadership for those. So taking them along the journey, making sure that they agree that you are working on the right things, and working on the right things is being successful for the clients and the business, and also fitting into the overall strategy. So what is your strategy in your individual product, or the area? Maybe you're working on a component, or even APIs, some of these things that customers don't necessarily see. So how are you going to be successful? Does it fit into the strategy? And how does it improve the lives of your clients and the business? So that is, and you put those in a priority order. And then you may be competing with priorities from other products or other areas in a large organization as you fight for staffing and people to be working on these initiatives for you. So what does the no look like? I mentioned that you can't necessarily say no to a senior leader who is telling you and dictating what you are going to be working on, but you can always say not yet. And here's why. And if you approach a client and you say, this is really important for us, here's when we can do it. This is a little later than you want, but here's why. And so we're going to do it, but just not yet. I think that helps smooth things over. And you're right, clients, they are understanding, and they're also demanding. So you have to meet their demands, and there's a lot of different things going on with the product, lots of improvements being made across the whole thing. So just letting them know, taking them on that journey, here's what it's going to look like in 3 months, 6 months, a year, and have them remain excited about it. And then for those clients that you say no, also why. This doesn't really fit in because this is how we operate right now. We're going to put this, we're going to say no now, but we're going to reserve this. If other clients start asking for it in a year, that's when we may start looking at it again. So it's more of a not yet than a hard no.
Got it. Meaning that in that format for both internal stakeholders and external clients.
Yep.
Got
it. Yeah,
it.
and just being super honest and transparent about it as well. So not telling somebody, yes, we're going to do this, but not telling them it's going to take you 9 months. Right.
And yeah. It's sometimes hard, I feel like, as a product leader working in a company, when you have personal, like, if you agree personally, maybe with that external client, right? Like I remember I was, as a product designer, I remember there being a situation where a client was complaining about something like within the software and the interface. And I actually I agreed. I agreed with that, with the client's complaint. I said, if I was a client, I would be really frustrated also, but business strategy was saying, we're not like going to, suck up internal resources right now to work on this. Yeah. And I was really frustrated also. And so like, I had to, like, I remember, needing to just like workshop my own feelings and like figure it out to like, remove my own bias and like personal agreement with the client to, put on that face of empathy and, working on that not yet conversation. But like, I do think it's not always easy, because oftentimes the people who are using it and living in it, every day are the ones who probably have challenges that, make sense.
Yeah, and we also learn from clients that do things in a way that's unexpected. And you don't know those things unless you're in communication with clients, seeing how they're using things. They might have come up with something in a really unexpected way, and then you can solve for that by filling that need that they were doing maybe 5 steps to get to, and you see how they're getting there, and realize that's only a 1 step away if we do this and develop that in. And that's where you surprise and delight customers and keep them loyal as well. You mentioned that. Is by providing those things, those little small delights within their day where you are giving them back time.
Right. Right. That's awesome. That's amazing. Wow. Okay. There's so much here. Kevin, I'd love to hear, sometimes somebody finds themselves in the similar situation to you, which sounds very positive, right? Like the collaboration and just some of the different, team dynamics and processes that you touched on are amazing. And I think that there are probably people who are listening who are maybe wishing that they were in a similar situation. Is there like a piece of advice, guidance, tip, template, resource, something that a mentor once, told you or gave to you that you could share with everyone listening to just take away and maybe either implement, think about, read, watch, to help them feel more equipped and empowered to do the work that they're doing?
Yeah. I always say, like, be the light that you want shined on you. And that means that if you are going through some darkness, whether that's maybe an engineering team that is not very happy, you don't have to necessarily commiserate. You can acknowledge what's going on, but say, yeah, but how can we get this improved? How can we do this in a better way? And you can turn around teams that way, that maybe have this negative mindset because of certain things that are really not in your control. What you can control is how you approach those situations. And then what I learned from one of my directors, and this was when I was working for Porsche Cars North America, is that I was seen as an honest voice. And I was in an organization with meeting with senior leaders up into the president and CEO on a monthly basis, which was fantastic to be able to meet with leaders on a regular basis, and coming in as somebody being trustworthy because you can give them bad news. You're not afraid to give them the bad news or the harsh reality of a delay, or if something's not viable, etc. That will always come across better, and you will gain more trust in that way than you will trying to smooth things over or being too I'm a very optimistic person, but I would say my optimism is also based in reality.
Wow, that is super powerful. It is such a hard thing to balance, because I feel like as human beings, like I'm also naturally a more optimistic person. And I think that like when it comes to reality, I'm also very practical and logical. But I think that sometimes we think that if we just fluff things up a little bit or like make things seem like they're a little bit better, that like it'll make people happier. And it might make them happier for that meeting or for a few more hours. But then when they find out what's really going on, it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. Not worth it. Right. Wow. That's awesome. That is so powerful. Okay. So be the light that you want shined on you, and be known as an honest person who can be upfront and say it as it is with an optimistic, perspective. And wow, that's awesome. If we could internalize that, we'll have strong teams.
Indeed.
Strong teams. Wow. This has been amazing, Kevin. So for those of the people who are watching and listening who want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
You can look for me on LinkedIn. That'd be the easiest one. My name is pretty unique, so I'm going to be only one there. And I'll, love to connect with as many product people as I can.
Awesome. That is amazing. So, feel free to reach out to Kevin, let him know how awesome the podcast was, what you learned from it, what you're doing because of it. Let us know in the comments below. And again, thank you so much, Kevin, for your time and wisdom and just sharing your knowledge and expertise. It's really, really been amazing. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation and showcasing your passion as well.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, please be sure to check out our awesome community where you can connect with podcast guests, like-minded professionals, and be surrounded by others excited by your success. Keep pushing for impact and unlocking unstoppable growth. See you in the community.